Are toothpaste companies lying to you? Nowadays we have so many different products and people saying different things like fluoride free versus using nanohydroxyapatite versus xylitol. And some of them are claiming to whiten your teeth and some of them are claiming to reverse a cavity. But the problem is a lot of these claims are just misleading. Now I don't want to tell you exactly which toothpaste to use because first of all everyone's needs are a little bit different and then everyone's opinions are a little bit different. What I do want to tell you though is what to steer away from. So some claims or some products or ingredients, and that way you don't fall for any of these cheap marketing tricks. The first one I want to talk about is whitening toothpaste. Toothpaste whitening is different from whitening strips. They both claim to whiten your teeth, but they work a little bit differently. So let's say a traditional whitening strip or getting your teeth whitened in a dentist's office. What they'll typically use is something called hydrogen or carbamide peroxide. Now these are the two real only ingredients that will actually whiten your teeth. The way they work is they basically kind of get inside of your tooth structure, inside of your enamel, and then any stains on your tooth or anything that looks more yellow, they kind of change the structure of those stains so that when light reflects off your teeth, it looks more transparent and it ends up making your teeth look a lot more white. Now whitening toothpaste, on the other hand, usually does not use one of these two ingredients. It usually just kind of polishes off the surface stains. And this is kind of similar to the polishing that's done at your dental cleaning. You know, at the end, after they're done scaling all your teeth, they take this polisher and kind of polish all your teeth and make it smell all nice and minty. That polishing works really well to remove surface stains. So things like coffee or tea stains or just normal wear and tear, or if you're a smoker and you have tobacco stains. That's kind of similar to what these toothpastes are doing when they claim to whiten your teeth. They use these same polishers that will polish off those surface stains. Now this can work really well to remove some of those stains and then make your teeth look whiter initially, but it's not something that you should be doing every single day because that polisher is still pretty abrasive. And if you do it every day, it can actually start to scrape off your enamel. And then what might happen is your teeth might actually look more yellow. Because if you scrub off too much of your enamel, then your dentin is underneath, and your dentin is yellow. So if you want to whiten your teeth, I'd actually recommend using one of those whitening strips. It might seem more aggressive, but it's actually safer for your enamel. The next thing I want you to look out for in toothpaste is SLS, or sodium lauryl sulfate. Now this might not be a problem for everyone, but some people might have an allergy or irritation to this. We used to think that we need this ingredient called SLS to make toothpaste more foamy or bubbly, but nowadays there's alternative ingredients that we have. And the problem with this SLS is people can end up with canker sores or redness or gum irritation if that toothpaste touches it. And the toothpaste is bound to touch all those surfaces in your mouth because it's supposed to go in your mouth and clean your teeth. So if you've been brushing your teeth or use a certain toothpaste and notice all these canker sores or get all this irritation in your gums and you're wondering why, it could be because of this SLS ingredient. So make sure you look for a toothpaste that is SLS free if that's the case. Now the third toothpaste line I want to talk to you about is xylitol. Look, I talk a lot about xylitol. I'm actually a big fan of using xylitol, and I think it's really good for preventing cavities, but it's not good for some of the claims that these toothpastes are making. You see, a lot of toothpaste and other products are trying to go away from fluoride, and there is a ton of controversy now about should you use a fluoride-free product or a fluoride product. But it's not even about that. A lot of the claims from xylitol toothpaste is that xylitol will strengthen and remineralize your teeth. Now, if you don't know what xylitol is basically like a sugar substitute. So you'll often find it in chewing gum or something like that. When you see sugar-free chewing gum, they use something like xylitol or a different sugar substitute so that it doesn't cause cavities, but it still tastes good and sweet. Now, what's unique about xylitol is that it's the only sugar substitute that not only doesn't cause cavities, it actually prevents cavities. So normally you have this bacteria in your mouth called Streptococcus mutans, and when this bacteria eats sugar or other carbohydrates, it will break down into acids, and then those acids will cause cavities or these holes to form in your teeth. But xylitol, on the other hand, when these bacteria eat xylitol, these bacteria die. So xylitol actually kills these bad bacteria in your mouth and actively prevents cavities. So it's really good for your teeth. But that's all it does. I'm not saying oh, that's all, oh, that's not a big thing. That is huge, but it doesn't remineralize your teeth. So what does actually remineralizing your teeth mean? That means it's actually strengthening your teeth. You see, now if you use a fluoride toothpaste, that fluoride in that toothpaste will swap out those minerals in your enamel with fluoride ions, and that will basically strengthen that enamel and make that enamel more compact and more dense and basically strengthen your teeth. And if you're not a fan of fluoride, no worries, because now we have something called nanohydroxyapatite. And this nanohydroxyapatite will swap out those crystals in your enamel for newer crystals. This is a really important process to keep your teeth strong because, for example, sometimes we see something called incipient lesions. So this is when you go to your dentist and they might not even tell you that they see something, but sometimes we tell you that we're going to watch a tooth. Why are we watching a tooth? Well, it looks like there's a cavity that's starting, but it's not something that we really need to treat. So when a cavity that's starting is really, really small, like it's just into your enamel, and it hasn't really formed a hole inside of your tooth into your dentin yet, then this can still be reversed. And the way to do that is to actually remineralize your teeth with something like fluoride or this nanohydroxyapatite. If you don't have one of those two ingredients, you're still going to get the benefits of the xylitol preventing cavities, but you're not going to get the benefits of actively strengthening your teeth. So if you want to use a toothpaste with xylitol, that's great, but make sure it has one of those remineralizing agents in it too. Now, speaking of remineralizing, this brings us to number 4, which talks again about hydroxyapatite. If you haven't heard about hydroxyapatite toothpaste or hydroxyapatite products before this video, you're going to hear about it now because it's getting more and more popular. Hydroxyapatite is the mineral that makes up your enamel or your teeth. So your enamel is made up of these crystals called hydroxyapatite crystals. They're these cluster of crystals that are all bound together. And that's why these hydroxyapatite toothpastes have gotten so popular, because people are saying like, oh, why would I use fluoride, this weird ingredient, when I can just use hydroxyapatite, which is what my tooth is actually made out of. And then people will also make claims like fluoride is a neurotoxin, or fluoride will cause lower IQ, or all these sorts of problems to justify using a hydroxyapatite toothpaste. There's a few problems I have with this. I actually think it's safer to use a fluoride toothpaste than a hydroxyapatite toothpaste. Now that being said, I do think both are safe. I just think it's safer to use a fluoride toothpaste. Why? Because there's a lot more research on it. There is like 100 years of research on fluoride toothpaste. And all the research is showing that it's safe in the dosage that we're using in our toothpaste and in our dental products. Any claims about fluoride causing like a lower IQ or like other problems is not even a causative thing. First of all, it's all a correlation. And on top of that, the dosages in these studies are totally off. So not only are the dosages in these studies saying that fluoride is bad totally off, people are also using these very weak studies that show some correlation as a causative thing. This is a huge problem. Can you imagine if we did this in any other scenario? That would be like saying that firefighters are the reason that houses burn down. Because every time a firefighter goes to a house to water it down and take out the fire, there is a fire that burns that house down. So if 100% of the time a firefighter shows up at a house and that house burns down, that firefighter is what's causing that house to burn down. You see the problem with this logic here? And the problem I have here is people are tricking people and fear-mongering people into buying a $40 or $50 toothpaste when they could be better off with just buying a $2 toothpaste. Now, do I think that all hydroxyapatite toothpaste is bad? No, the studies are still showing that it's safe. We just don't have nearly as many studies as we have on fluoride showing that fluoride's safe. But I know for sure that some hydroxyapatite people are trying to scam you. And how do I know that? Because in order for hydroxyapatite toothpaste to work, what the studies show is it needs to be, first of all, something called nanohydroxyapatite. That is the size of these particles. If it's not a nanohydroxyapatite toothpaste, then they are tricking you and it's not going to work. And also, it has to be 10%. So the concentration of that nanohydroxyapatite in your toothpaste has to be 10%. If it doesn't meet those two criteria, if it's not nanohydroxyapatite and it does not have at least 10% in it, then it's not going to work that well. And unfortunately, you're probably going to end up wasting your money. Now, the last thing I want to talk about with your toothpaste, this isn't really like a scam or anything. I just think a lot of people overlook this, is a lot of times there's like a bunch of different products or ingredients inside of a toothpaste, and this could be a problem because toothpaste can still be acidic. Now, this is where the other benefit of using fluoride over nanohydroxyapatite comes in. Because you might opt to choose a nanohydroxyapatite toothpaste because it's the same structure that's in your tooth instead of a fluoride toothpaste. But actually, fluoride will strengthen your teeth even more than just hydroxyapatite. So normally your enamel will start to break down and form a cavity at a pH of 5.5. Once you get that acidic level of a pH of 5.5, your enamel will start to break down. But if your mouth has been exposed to fluoride, now your enamel is stronger. Now it needs a pH of 4.5 in order to break your enamel down. So something has to be a lot more acidic in order to break down enamel strengthened by fluoride. But sometimes you might have some gum recession, or you might have some enamel thinning, and you might have some dentin or your root structure exposed. This can break down a lot sooner. This can even break down to a pH of like 6 or 6.5. So in some cases, something doesn't have to be that acidic in order to damage your teeth. Some toothpaste, however, can be this acidic or even more acidic in order to break down your enamel. Now, luckily, you're only gonna be brushing like 2 minutes for 2 times out of the day, but you wanna make sure that your toothpaste is at least a neutral or better pH. So look out for things that have different like flavoring agents or different preservatives or a lot of different whitening components. I will say that most normal toothpaste have a regular pH. The toothpaste that I use is something called called Colgate Total, and this is a normal pH. And the reason that I like this toothpaste is because it has stannous fluoride in it. If you want to learn about the different types of fluoride and why I like stannous fluoride over the other types of fluoride, check out the link in the description below because I put a link to that video where I talked about it. So quick checklist for like everything you want to look for in a toothpaste. You want to look for something that's remineralizing either fluoride or nanohydroxyapatite with 10%. If you have a sensitive mouth, you want to look for something that has SLS free or no sodium lauryl sulfate in it. You want to look for something that's usually not abrasive, and that usually involves something that doesn't taste as good, unfortunately. And if you want to add xylitol on top of that, looking for a toothpaste that has xylitol would be a great idea too. So if you've made it this far, you probably know more about toothpaste than like 90% of the population. So congrats to you. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel below, and I will see you in the next video. You're brushing twice a day, you're flossing sometimes, but your teeth are still sensitive or stained or something is just off. The truth, some of the worst things for your teeth aren't even on the radar. And the thing is, a lot of dentists won't even talk about this unless you ask them. But in this video, I'm gonna go over 7 surprising things that are ruining your teeth